Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
A reminder, all of our guests today brought to you by Basant Motors. Getting to your destination starts with them. At Basant, find the best deals, largest selection, and best financing. Visit basantmotors.com or visit them in store. And a reminder, you can also follow them on Twitter or X. Sorry, I don't want to make anybody angry, but
X, that's what the kids call it.
Do you call it that? I mean, you're the king of Twitter.
I still call it Twitter. I still call it Twitter. I don't know. I'm not comfortable calling it X yet.
When you're not fighting with people on Twitter, that is.
No, it's an interesting space, I'll tell you that much.
We're just waiting on Elliotte Friedman. He's going to join us in a moment here ahead of, as I mentioned, after the big Game 4 victory on Saturday night in Edmonton, and the series now shifts Game 5 back down in Florida. And we've also been, I don't know if I said this, but Donnie not here today. Donnie back tomorrow on the program.
Yep.
But he will be back with us tomorrow. And joining us right now, every second Monday, he's on the program from Hockey Night in Canada and the 32 Thoughts podcast. It is Elliotte Friedman, and I believe he's in the bowels of the Panthers Arena in Florida, if I have that right. Elliotte, are you there?
I am in the bowels of the Panthers Arena, yes, and I will be walking to the car while we're doing this conversation. Sorry, guys, I didn't comb my hair.
No, hey, come on.
That makes two of us.
Elliotte, when you're on with Rick, you're still the best-looking guy on here. Let's be honest. Don't worry about that. I know Rick is itching to talk to you about all things Canucks, and we will get to that in a second. But first, your takeaways Saturday night, Elliotte, game number 4 in Edmonton. The Oilers 8-1 over the Panthers, forcing a Game 5 tomorrow night in Florida.
Well, look, I think that everybody was kind of thought that the Oilers wouldn't go down too easy. They thought that they would, one of the things the Panthers said about them was, like, you could tell they felt like they had no pressure. They were down 3-0, and you know what? Like, they might as well just go out and go all out, and they did. And some of the Panthers, Ryan, admitted to me that they were probably more nervous than they had been for a game, simply because, like, the families were there, and it was a realization, like, holy smokes, we're a win away from winning the Stanley Cup, and it could be presented tonight, and they weren't themselves. And, they got their asses kicked. Like, that's basically what happened. And, but the one thing is, like, that's a pretty mature team. They're like, it was one game, was a good learning experience for us. This isn't over. Edmonton's going to play like they've got nothing to lose. And I think tomorrow night will be much, much different. But, that's what the Oilers can do to you. They can embarrass you, and they embarrassed them the other night.
Let me ask you about Connor McDavid. We talked about it earlier. Most assists in a single postseason, breaks Gretzky's record. If this thing goes 6 or 7, but obviously doesn't go the Oilers' way, they don't win the Cup, do you see any path to Connor McDavid winning a Conn Smythe in an Oilers loss?
I do, but I think he has to have a phenomenal end to the series. Like, I don't think it'll happen if they go to 5, but if they go to 6 or 7 and he lights it up, I do think there is a possibility. Like, I don't have a vote this year. I would vote for Bobrovsky first. There are a lot of Barkov loyalists out there. So one of the things that kind of has me thinking is, Ryan, like, I think there's 18 voters, if I remember correctly. What happens also, too, if Bobrovsky and Barkov splits the vote?
Yeah.
Like, could you get a situation where that happens? But, like, someone said to me, Bobrovsky can't win now because of the game the other night. I think that's ridiculous. The guy has played every minute of every game until last game. He's beaten some great goaltenders, and because he has one stinker against a great offensive team, you're going to say that he can't win the Conn Smythe? I think that's ridiculous. He's still my vote, but yes, I do see a possibility McDavid could win it if they go deeper in this series and still lose.
All right, Elliotte, let's talk about the Canucks. You had a lot of good information, as you always do. On Friday, you said that, you thought they were out on Zadorov, but now there might be a final offer coming for Zadorov. What are you hearing on Zadorov?
I think it's most likely that they won't be able to keep him, but I don't think it's impossible. Look, I think in a perfect world, Zadorov would like to stay in Vancouver. I think he really likes it. I think he's bounced around. He knows a good situation when he sees it, and he knows that Tocchet likes him and the organization likes him. But as I've said a couple of times, I also think that, he's willing to take a little bit less to stay in Vancouver, but there's a limit. And so I think that's where it is. Now, I had said last week I thought it wasn't going to happen. And someone told me, hold on, it's not over yet. And I just don't know where that stands right now. I was expecting the two sides to talk. I don't know how likely it is, but I refuse to close the door 100%, because the one thing I really do believe is I think the player really does like Vancouver and would like, if it was possible, to make it work there.
Hey, Elliotte, Joshua, a lot of people are surprised the Canucks have not done a deal with this guy. Are you one of those guys? Because if he hits the market, I think you've heard and I've heard myself, there could be double-digit teams after this guy, and still crickets when you think about what's happening with Joshua and the Canucks.
Well, you know what I think is going on there, Rick? I think it's pretty simple. I have heard that one of the things that is happening is that players like Joshua, like him, Jordan Martinook, William Carrier, Stefan Nason, guys like that, there's a really good market for them. A really good market for them. There's a lot of teams out there that really like guys like that think they can really help teams. And I think what that's done is it's push up the numbers for those kinds of players. I believe that Vancouver does want to keep Joshua in a perfect world. I think the market has gone farther than where they're willing to go, and potentially significantly farther than they're willing to go. I think the other thing too is, I was actually doing prep work for this segment, Rick, because I knew you'd be coming after me with all this stuff. And someone actually made a really interesting point to me. And they said that if you're a player like Dakota Joshua, who's a little bit undervalued or a little bit is not getting the market that they would like, that you would be very, very comfortable going to Vancouver, because you know that Rick Tocchet would value your skill set and would want a player like that. So what I think is going on is the Canucks are facing the possibility of losing Joshua and looking to see, are there other players out there who are similar to Joshua but might be a little bit undervalued that we think we can get at a better price. I think one of the things that has clearly happened, and actually a couple of agents told me this, is that the Canucks has shown that if you are a player who fits the Tocchet image, you can thrive here. And that will help Vancouver get some players if they feel they need to replace them. So I think that's what's going on.
The other one that is very important in Vancouver right now, Elliotte, is Hronek. Here we are in the 11th hour, and they had all year to cut a deal. They know they couldn't because the number is too high, and they're not comfortable going to $8 million. What do you see happening with Hronek?
I think Rutherford kind of knows around where this is going to come in. Like, the one thing I think here is, and look, nobody wants to go to arbitration. It's not your preferred outcome here. Mm-hmm. But what I think it does do is it gives Rutherford a base for, if he's here next year, we at least have an idea of where the number is going to be. So I think in a perfect world, they're going to sign him long term. I agree with you. I don't think it's been as easy as everybody hoped or thought. Players got a sign of his value. Teams got a sign of his value. But Jim Rutherford's not one to panic about this stuff. At the very least, he knows what the number is going to be, at least for next year. He has a ballpark. So for that reason, he can still do his planning, what cap room they have, what cap room they don't have, and he can work around that. But, unless something has changed and all it takes is one phone call to change, I do think there was a difference of opinion on where the final number should be.
Elliotte, Chris Tanev, you know him well, and you know that this guy, if he hits the market July 1st, is going to do really well. What are you hearing about Tanev right now, Chris?
I have to check and see. And on Dallas, I know they were hoping to try to keep him, but I heard the market for him was very high. I don't know that Vancouver is going to be able to do it. I think there's going to be teams like Toronto and Ottawa and others who are going to be interested and are going to be in. So I think he's got a very, very hot market. And it reminds me, Rick, I've got some homework to do. I got to check back on if anything was going on with him in Dallas. But hot market, I was told.
Elliotte, we really appreciate you joining us. I know you're incredibly busy, so we thank you for this, and we'll see.
I couldn't do that, Elliotte, what you just did.
Well, yeah, I know.
Walking around and then sitting in a cab doing an interview. I can't do that.
Well, you know what, Rick? Like, it's not like it's like I can walk and chew gum at the same time. We have to be able to do that in this business. By the way, I'm not in a cab. Do you remember last year at the Stanley Cup Final?
Yeah.
Who was driving me around while I did the hit?
Oh, is it Paskaskas?
Is Kyle making
Kyle?
The pride of Campbell River.
Oh, look at that. Yes.
Yes, and he's still got the shades as well. Awesome.
Yeah, he's got the shades. He's my chauffeur for this trip.
Why are you not sitting in the front, Elliotte? Why are you in the back?
Because you know what? Like when you're talking on the phone like this or doing work, he doesn't want to sit in the front with you. You sit in the back to give the driver some peace.
See, veteran move.
Kyle already almost hits enough things without me hammering next to him. I don't want to make this ride any more dangerous.
Well, thank you, Kyle. Thank you, Elliotte. We appreciate it, and we'll talk to you in a couple weeks, Elliotte.
You two are the best in the biz. Best in the biz.
Take care, guys. Speak to you later, Rick.
Thanks, Elliotte.
See you later, guys.
Thanks.